Hey, Printers, welcome back to the Printavo Printers podcast. Excited to have you back. We got an exciting episode, something that an event that Farag and I went to, and we wanted to share as much as we possibly can with you about what it was. And all right, I'll leak the name. It was Rob Dyrdek. And so if you either watched MTV at some point or, grew up skateboarding or, follow him on social, he's just like a business mogul at this point. He's sold companies for over 300 million. He's built the different businesses, consumer brands, to like skateboarding leagues, to like he's got a showerhead business. He's an investor now, and he really talks about building companies. And what I find fascinating about this, and we'll dive into it in a bit, is just that how he plans and how he thinks about growing a business. Sometimes we talk about, hey, if you were stepping into your company as a hired CEO, what are the things you would do in the first 6 months? And are those the things that you're doing now? And so that's what we're going to get into in a little bit. But really quick, we've got 4 incredible sponsors. They help put on the show every single week. So we're going to talk a little bit about them. GraphX Source. If you need a solution to help improve efficiency and reduce costs in your art department, GraphX Source offers industry-leading outsourcing options for your shop by truly becoming a part of your team. They plug and play right into Printavo and the different order statuses you want to use and the different automations. They can also work with other shop management tools as well. But when it comes to SEPs, mockups, creative art, order management, digitizing, and customer service, they are there to help. Hit them up, GraphX Source. Mention Printavo Pod 24, and that gets you 50% off your first Vector SEP or digitizing order.
Easy way. You shouldn't be spending hours cleaning screens. Spending hours cleaning screens is a thing of the past with EasyWay's screen printing and screen cleaning chemicals. Their innovative formulas are designed to work quickly and effectively so you can spend less time cleaning and more time creating. Plus, EasyWay is passionate about empowering printers of all skill levels. They offer helpful resources, expert advice to help you succeed in the industry. They work with over 100 distributors. They are the easiest way. At Campus Inc., we use 701 and 842. Go give EasyWay a try. Thanks so much, EasyWay.
Multicraft Daddy, multicraft_daddy on Instagram. That's Dave. And Dave is a big part of the industry because he helps run multi-craft screen printing and digital supplies. So for over 50 years, they've been providing the industry with top brands at competitive pricing. And you guys can mention Printavo Pod and that gets you 10% off your first order. You can also shoot him a DM. And every single week, he's sending someone who sent them a DM from the pod a case of PMI tape. Pull out your app, your Instagram app, send him a DM, say hi, say you came from the pod, and he's sending out PMI tape every single week. We appreciate you, Dave. Thanks, Multicraft.
Supacolor is the world's best heat transfers made for screen printers by screen printers. They understand the pressures of expectations of a screen printing business. That's why they pride themselves on being super fast and super easy. Whenever we're in a pickle, we give Supacolor a call. They're super helpful. And they just dropped Supa DTF. So now the minimum order quantity of 1, you can order Supa DTF. Use the Printavo code or the promo code Printavo15 and get 15% off your first order.
I was using a fresh batch to help my wife out. This new formula, I swear, like the peel is really nice. It's been going good. Okay, so So Stephen Farag came out to Los Angeles about a week ago for 2 reasons. One is to run the marathon, which pretty big accomplishment there. And 2, it looked hilly. And 2, to see Rob Dyrdek talk at a business event. First of all, congrats on the marathon. How did you feel? How long did it take to recover? Or are you recovering?
I was hurting for a little bit. Los Angeles, a lot hillier than Chicago. So, no, it was a good time. Thank you for cheering me on. I appreciate it. But simultaneously, Bruce and I are part of an exec group, and there's different speakers and things like that. And there was this event that Rob Dyrdek was speaking at which was pretty nuts. And so I think we both got on the list, and it was probably 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, you were, I think, more excited about this than me.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you were excited? Give us a background, Rob Dyrdek. Yeah. Why were you pumped for this?
I got into the screen printing industry from skateboarding, actually. So, always had been a kid hanging out with the other skaters, and through college even was really, really into skateboarding. And that dragged me into the screen printing because someone at the skate shop had a Riley Hopkins and sold it to us to make our own apparel that we were using a shop for before. And at that time, Rob Dyrdek was a really big professional skateboarder as well. He had a bunch of skate videos that he released, and he really came on the scene heavy when he hired a bodyguard, Big Black, you may remember, and which turned into the Rob and Big show on MTV. And that was a pretty popular show at the time. He went through these ups and downs with his different businesses. So he ran a skateboarding brand. He ran a skateboarding kind of league, you can call it. And then he really started to spin out into other industries and build a media empire. So his first big wins was on the media side, which owned, Ridiculousness and the Rob and Big show and some of these other different TV shows that he was doing, Fantasy Factory. And I think that business sold for 200 or 300 million, something like that. And then he's used that to invest and build other companies. Now, what he's learned along the process, though, is what I found most fascinating. So it's like, yeah, there's the story and there's the highs and the lows are interesting, but I think the lessons learned are really the big takeaways. And I've got 3 big ones that we're going to talk about today and will be fun to dive in with you.
I didn't know a lot about him. To be frank, I didn't watch Rob and Big or Ridiculousness or Fantasy Factory. But I did know that he was ultra successful and he had his hand in like DC shoes, just like a lot of big skater things.
Yeah, he did.
What I thought was interesting, he's a special person. Okay.
Yeah.
I would put him on the level of like, as David Goggins is to like the running, whatever crazies, Rob Dyrdek is to like discipline and like life hacking.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And definitely on the crazier side of that.
Right. So he said, I went through what a drug addict goes through. I went and he talks so much about discipline, right? And he tracks like every minute of his day. He does this whole thing. And he said, I went through what a drug addict goes through, rock bottom. I went through peak top, the polar opposite. So much so that I can never get undisciplined again in my life. I was like, that was deep. Wow. I'm a little jealous, but haven't heard it like that before. But like he obsesses over a couple he says over and over and over and over again. And I thought that, if I could bottle that up and take a little potion of it, it'd be pretty helpful. What did you think of him as a personality? Eccentric, maybe is the word, or,
extremely passionate and very long-term looking right now. So one of the things, and I'll go to this first point here, is he's obsessed with this concept of start at the end. And it comes from a book called Start at the End, which actually has a really good worksheet that you could find, but it's Start at the End book. It's by a guy named David Levinsky. So you can see the book has like some pencils on it because there's a couple of them that say Start at the End. And he's obsessed with this concept of really fleshing out businesses before even getting started. And that I think applies for even if you're in the middle, even if you've got 10 people, 5 people, and you're like, where are we really starting to go? he's looking at what is the end goal for this business? And that's very hard to think about. I think, especially when you're in it, that's very, I don't know. I'm just running it. I'm trying to focus on this week. I'm trying to get this stuff done. I want to be able to move forward. I want to be able to hire this one person. That's just the total focus. I'm not thinking about very long term, but he literally says, okay, so my goal for this next business is I want to sell it within 8 years for X dollars because it has Y, and then all of these variables underneath it. And he really starts to back in from the very end. I'm sure you started thinking about this more after you fundraised because, you take people's money, they want a return as well. Did you think about this though before that?
Okay, so before we fundraise, so when you think about fundraising, you're thinking about an exit, right? So you take on capital because you hope that someday someone's going to buy you. So you have to start to reimagine it, I think is what you're alluding to, Bruce, right? Mm-hmm. Before that, I was just running a printing company that I wanted to make as big as possible, right? And I think I had goals, but I don't think I had endpoints and like a flag in the ground to say like, that's what I want here and here and here. The difference is once we took on an investment, we knew we started to create like this formula where it was like, okay, if we want to sell our company for this much, that means it has to be doing this much in revenue and this much in profit. In order to do this much in revenue, this is the model that we have to follow to get to there. So, it forced me to think through that and think 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road and actually put pen to paper on it. But I also think that does that answer your question, Bruce?
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I felt like the same of I just want the biggest, like I want us to take over this space. I think we can help a tons of shops. I could see our path from 1 million and then I could see it to 3 million and 5 million, 10 million and so on. And I think that is a confusing end goal though, right? Because it doesn't take into account all the other factors. It doesn't take into account the profitability. It doesn't take into account your lifestyle and what you want there. It was just growth almost at all costs in a way, which wears on people. And I see a lot of shops, especially in this space, it's like, I realized I swung past the goalpost. Like I literally, 2 years ago, back when we were this size with this number of people, that was the golden goose. That's where we should have been because we were most profitable. And that's what I enjoy doing because now I've got this huge team. I've got all this stuff. I've got these headaches. I've got multiple shifts and so on.
Bruce, there's also a book. It's written by the COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which is a really cool story. Mm-hmm. There's an awesome how I built this on it. And he talks about creating a vivid vision. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Where you write out on one page exactly what you envision your company to be 3 years from now. Like the look, the feel, the office, the profitability, the numbers, what your lifestyle is going to be like in the business, like the emotions of the business. And you try to almost put it on like you're you're painting a picture of it. And I think something that Rob did really well is he's like in my, I have a vision board and I Photoshop it. And I actually draw the future state and I show it to my wife and we put it up on the fridge kind of thing. I think the practice of doing that seems so cheeky and corny, but like he really, really spends a lot of time in that future state. And then the building blocks seem so simple to him because he's like, now I just have to create the ladder to get there and the stairs. And it's probably easier when you're doing it for your second or third time around in business, right? I'm sure he made a lot of mistakes. He made a ton of mistakes. So it's definitely easier your second or third time. But how many small business owners do you think really create like vision boards? Did you have one?
No. Again, it was just a focus of day to day, week to week of plowing through. And maybe there's a time for that. Like maybe there's a moment where, okay, until you get to X revenue or Y point in time in your life, there's definitely a time where you have to overinvest to time and you're just trying to shovel dirt out of the hole over and over again. I'm not exactly sure when that transition is, but we definitely passed it. Like we way past it where I should have thought to myself, what do you want from the business in the end? Is it And I think there's really two questions, right? It's either I want it to cash flow and I want to have a good lifestyle, or I want to sell it and I want to do something else, or take a break, whatever it is. It would have been more beneficial to spend a bit more time thinking about that, and I think planning towards that in a way of the questions could be, okay, well then what is the revenue? And if I want to cash flow it, what's the margin? What's the income I want to make as an owner? What's our focus, of the industry that I enjoy talking to the people? What does the team structure look like? So I do have that lifestyle that backs that up, right? Because then it's easy to violate. You don't. I think then you don't violate those rules as easily. Like, oh, I'm going to take this on, or I'm going to look into this space, or I'm going to do this additional work. Well, that violates this roadmap plan, this longer term plan.
I think, okay, Bruce, did you think you were going to sell print? If you were to look 5 years ago, did you think you were going to sell Printavo? Was it a surprise? Was it planned? Was it thoughtful?
No.
It wasn't.
No, none of that. No.
So I also was listening to, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second.
And not in a way where that was purposeful in a no answer. It was just that it wasn't planned or thought through. And in my opinion, it should have been more so. Anyway, what were you listening to?
I was listening to the guys from Basecamp. They write the book Rework, right?
Love that book.
And there's a website called 37signals.com. And they basically have their ethos of how they operate. And they're such a cool company. And he says, plans are guesses. The long term, the plan, the worse the guess. Replace years with weeks. 3-year plan, make it a 3-week plan. 10-year plan, make it a 10-week plan. Plan more often, not less often. The near term your plans, the more accurate they'll be.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's literally coming a month after listening to Rob Dyrdek, where he's reverse engineering and starting with the end.
It's totally opposite. If you want an incredible short read of a book that makes you rethink how you run your business, read Rework, Rework. It was the book for me that inspired me to go into Printavo. I used to buy it for every single new hire because it was that cool. But you're right. Yeah, he doesn't plan. He doesn't think about it. The only thing that I realized though about Rework is over time, I kind of split. Rework. The thought. The thought process behind the book Rework was you can underdo your competition and stay focused on the simple things and dive deeper there. You can also not plan that long and just plan in 6-week sprints of work to be able to get things done. They built software. They were an agency that turned into a software company. They built Basecamp. People may have heard of Basecamp. One of the other big things is pure focus on profitability. That's the only thing they really think about or care about. Growth, nope. Top line revenue, nope. People, nope. How profitable are we? Now, that is because they chose cash flow as their end goal. They are an extremely profitable business. It's reported in that podcast and others that they make tens of millions a year in profit. They are also a content machine, writing books. They've got 3, 4, 5 books. They've got very popular blog posts. They're very polarizing with their views about how to build and create software products. I think that we only aligned with some of those pegs in the hole. So because we only aligned with some of those, we started to create our own path longer term. We weren't the cash flow machine, like them. So we couldn't make some of those decisions and more so focus on profitability. I did want to have a longer term process and then be able to get to the exit. And so I don't know, I was picking a different door, but I love the book and stayed as close as I could to it for as long as I possibly can. But that's a great point. And I love seeing a different perspective.
But what I do think is, and if you listen to the guys on their podcasts, they still set up and envisioned how they want their companies to run. They gave it a personality, they gave it structure, they gave it results, right? And I think that goes back to what Jeffrey Paul said is, I made more money when I was at 2 and 3 autos. That was the best time, right? So maybe the takeaway from this is, spend a little bit of time thinking about your future state. write it down. And you don't have to do anything with it. You can just acknowledge that it's there. Okay. I have a couple of things, but
Go ahead.
I think we're going to fall on the same one. Something that he said. So someone asked him, they said, you're running almost $400-500 million company. You have all of this real estate stuff. You seem like you just work 100 hours a week. And he's like, no, I get everything done in 40 hours a week.
I think he said, 15. 15.
Oh, 15 hours a week.
Yeah,
15 hours a week. Sorry. He's like, I work a normal week. I spend all my time with my family as much as humanly possible. I get all my work done in 15 hours a week. And he said, the guy that works 18 hours a day without stability and burning out, man, what was the analogy?
I feel bad for him.
He's like, I feel bad for that person.
He's like, he literally said, it sounds miserable. He said, I grew up with this guy who was a mentor of mine and I really looked up to in Ohio. And I saw him and he's like, I saw him 12, 14 hours a day, every single day. And he's like, he didn't have to do that though. Like he didn't need to be there, but he was addicted to it. There was just so much momentum in it that he couldn't pull himself out. And he's like, that sounded miserable to me.
And he said, like, if you have stability and discipline in your life, you don't have to work 16 to 18 hours a day. And I was just like, oof. Like,
why?
I was like, damn. If you have stability and discipline in your life, if he talks about his health. If you worry about your health, your wellness, your sleep, you can work 7 to 8 hours a day and run a $500 million company. And so I think like, we as small business owners think we have to work crazy hours or we have to grind like nonstop like
or
that.
We feel bad.
Or there's guilt associated to it.
Yeah.
And so I wonder and he said, you have to get yourself balanced and disciplined before you can really start to grow and scale. I don't know the exact analogy he used, but it was like, if you're not stable yourself, how are you going to keep your business growing?
I think his straightforward wording about it, and he used the word just miserable over time. After that initial time investment, that was powerful. You've had a big shift, I feel like. I mean, you've had a big shift of really, growing into that leadership role. Where do you think, or how did you force yourself there? And like, why did that hit you? Because you said, damn, when he talked about don't dabble in discipline.
I think of my business 3 years ago, getting out of COVID, and I was probably working a disturbing amount and I was like burning out. I was working a disturbing amount. I was traveling like crazy and I was just like, I was burning out, I'd pull all-nighters left and right. And I think it was this like hero complex of like, I own this business. I have to put it on my back. I have to be a hero. That's what everyone expects of me. Otherwise I feel guilty, right? Because that's what entrepreneurship should be, right? And I think the shift from that Steven then to Steven now is you won't accomplish shit after 8 p.m. Don't even try. Just rest. If you don't go do some fun activity and play, you're not going to feel motivated to work, right? If you try to spend every waking second in the shop, you're going to make yourself miserable and your employees miserable. So like, let go. And so I think there's a term that Rob uses. He says, don't dabble in discipline. And I was like, phew, don't dabble in discipline. He's like, you're either disciplined or you're not. And that it just keeps resonating with me. Is like, if you're going to be disciplined, you can't, there's no half-assed discipline, I don't know. Mm-hmm. What did that mean for you?
It made me think about being more regimented. As you talked about before, I don't know if it's like a records or he puts on his calendar everything he does for the day. And it's not just work related things, it's personal related things, the time he's spending here, the time he's spending there, and so on. It's all on the calendar. And so he really sticks to it. And then he checks like at the end of some time period, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month or a day. Hey, did I do this? Yes, or no on this? And then how does it make me feel if I didn't do that? And I was like, wow, that is powerful in a way of yeah, like I need to leave at this time, or I need to start at this time. I need to be up at this time. I need to meet with X people. I need to interview Y people, and really sticking to that discipline. Separately though, it also correlates to thinking about the time that you're spending and asking yourself, what is something. I think this correlates actually to that kind of ghost CEO point where it's like, if you are a hired CEO and you're coming in, or maybe you're a ghost looking in at everything, what is something you see happening and haven't made a decision on? And this could be in your personal life, or it could be in your professional life, in your shop, whatever it is, and making those very difficult decisions, because there's always this feeling of, I'm spending 10 hours a day here. I'm spending 8 hours a day here. Maybe I want to spend 4. Is this a need that I need to be doing, or is this a want? There's a hire that I've said, this isn't really working, but I've given, it's been 3 months and I'm giving way too much of a chance here. What is the hard decisions that I need to be making on this? And why am I not being disciplined about that? So I think it all correlates to his whole thing about forever stuck in the business. I like that he actively thinks through that. He takes the time to either journal it or just stare at a wall and think about it, go on a walk and think about it, and be able to reflect on the business. When reflection, I remember pushing reflection off. I was like, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. I have so much to do now.
I think one thing that he said, being forever stuck in the business, if you're in your shop every single day, you have to be careful. You have to be mindful of getting stuck in like a rut, in a routine, because a year can go by, 2 years can go by. It can be the same thing over and over and over again. What I see happening in shops is when they can get away, it might even be a trade show, they start to feel a little bit more liberated and their business can start working for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think shops get in their head and say, I have to be there. I need to be there. They won't be able to be there without me. But we got into business because we wanted freedom.
That's the start at the end. That's the start at the end.
We got into business to be liberated, but when we get into business, we get stuck in it. And it's these golden handcuffs that sometimes destroy our happiness, life, all those kind of things. So something he said, the last point, and Rob, one thing we did learn is he gets a lot of coaches and consultants and people to hold him accountable. So, he does time studies of his work, went through and worked with a coach very, very closely. I'm sure paid a significant amount of money to get him disciplined there. Right. I don't think this is just out of it's like he got trained, like he worked with a lot of trustworthy people. But one of the things he said was pursue happiness now. Pursue happiness now. And he said, there's this complex we have where, if I do this, then I will be happier, then I will be successful. If I make $1 million this year, then if we get to $2 million of revenue, then, and we start playing these if then to keep chasing a little bit of a carrot. And that resonated with me a little bit. And I thought it was very, very I think, our business has been on a crazy flight path. And every time I'm like, if we get to 3 million, it'll be good. If we get to 5 million, if we get to 10 million, if we get to this, if we get to that. And gratification doesn't come from those milestones. That's just a dopamine hit. I really think that chasing happiness with a business is a very, very dangerous thing to do. What do you think of this, Bruce?
Yeah, I like the quote that he said, what if you could structure things so that you have the lifestyle that you want in 6 months? And not in this fictional time. So you literally pick a date. Today is March 28th. We're recording, and in August 1st, let's say, I want this lifestyle, and write it out. Like, we separately outside of this have been doing this interesting kind of goal planning. Maybe we should share a little more about this, but here's the lifestyle I want. Here's the time I want to spend. Very specific, measurable stuff. I don't want to be on my phone past 7 o'clock. I want to be able to eat healthier. Someone to hire, a nutritionist or someone to help there, and so on, so on, so on. Rob, for example, wants to be able to work out 30 minutes, 45 minutes a day. He has a trainer come into his office or his house, knocks it out there. What are the exact things now? What are the measurable things to be able to get to that point on August 1st? What are the things we need? what's the revenue I need? What's the, maybe people or roles shift I need? Maybe what's people that I don't need that I have right now? This goes along the traction, EOS goals, but how do you literally track that week to week, month to month to be able to make that exact transformation? Because you're right, it just delays. You get there and you push it off again and you push it off to, wow, okay, awesome. All right, now the next goal is this. And at that point, I'll feel however you want to feel.
Okay, I think we'll just tell them what me and you are kind of doing right now. So
right.
Me, Bruce, and Kevin, we meet monthly, and we wrote out our goals and intention, our goals for the year. We basically put them into generally 4 buckets. So family, fitness, fun, and finance. And we made our goals like 6 to 8 bullet points. It could be, I want to take 1 to 2 mini adventures. I want to, focus on this health. I want to make this much money, cash flow this much. And essentially we put it on there, and it's probably 25 bullet points at the end of the day, right, Bruce, give or take?
Mm-hmm.
And we meet every month, and you just give your update. Like, ooh, I'm behind on that, or ooh, big win here. And we just challenge each other a little bit. But the fact that we wrote it out, we meet once a month, and we have this little, we turn the color on a spreadsheet if you're ahead, behind, in progress, not applicable. Every month, I'm like, shoot, I want to make sure I knock this out so I can turn it to green next month so I can tell Bruce and Kevin.
Yeah.
And business is not on there. Finance is on there. And if your business is successful, the finance is in a good spot. But it's more like a personal thing, right?
Mm-hmm. I have a couple business points ish, but I will say here, let me give a couple of real examples. So under family, for example, 1 date planned per week, no phone after 7 p.m. That one's behind. 1 10-day vacation plan, call parents 1 time a week. I have a bunch of kind of mini adventures that I want to be able to do personally. So planning those out, for example, I want to get Patty certified. I want to try to do an RV camping trip. I want to spend a weekend on a farm, things like that. Then personal, strength training 3 times a week, run 1 to 2 times a week, eat healthier. And I wrote that down, but it wasn't measurable. So then I broke it down. Okay, well, what does that mean? All right. So that means upping protein, reducing any sort of ultra processed, like chips, things like that. 3 or less desserts a week, probably violating that. Business and then financial side. So spending and spend tracking, income tracking, and investment plans and alternative investments, things like that. And so those are all the things that I'll share and then say, am I on it or not? And yes, the beauty of it is that you're going to miss it 1 month. And then when you get into the meeting in the second month, get some friends together, do this together with some other owners. You're going to miss it maybe again. And you say, fuck, all right, shoot. I feel crappy saying that I'm behind on this again. I really got to get on it. And then the third month, you really start to get into it and want to make sure you hit it, because it's more embarrassing if you go to the meeting and you're continually missing it.
Yeah. So every time we do it, we're like, man, this was awesome. Next month. Yep. See you there.
Yeah.
And I think it's super cool. So that's a good way to wrap Rob Dyrdek. So here's what's cool about the event that we were at and with Rob and things like that. People were openly talking about, things they spend money on. He's like, well, tell us about your wealth. And he's like, I like flying private. And he talked about it openly, which I thought was really interesting. He's like, I'm not going to flaunt it. Like, it's great. And it's a really expensive thing. And it funds my rich life.
He'll do what he has to do to make it work.
And he'll do what he has to do. So it's interesting to hear the candor of his, he obviously is super, super successful, but he openly talks about wealth and kind of the things you don't want to ask, but he's open to talk about, which was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. My big takeaway was be more intentional with the decisions that you want to make, with how you want to spend your time. Try to over time make it more of a hell yeah instead of a yeah. I mean, we were just kind of doing this thing to get this thing. How do you spend that time with your family to be very intentional? How do you create and maximize the best experiences for you, for your team, for your family, and create a much more intentional life from that, and write it down. I think that's very different than actually thinking about it. So anyway, short and sweet episode. That was a fun event we went to. Hopefully you guys enjoy. All right. See you guys in the next episode. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully that was informative. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications if you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy all the stuff we're putting out, it's really helpful. We love to just be able to see it. That means that we're doing a good job. To subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and hit the like button. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.